What up YouTube, BonzEye here, back with another video. Today will be the next part of Al's journey into Warhammer 40K. So in this series I introduced my buddy Allan to the world of Warhammer 40K. And today I'm going to have him react to the Orks and Tyrannids. If you've been tuning on along, thanks for sticking by. But if you haven't come across the previous videos, you can click here to go back to part 1 and start the series off that way. Anyway, with that intro out of the way, let's get right into the video. Okay guys, so Allan's back again for his continuing his journey into Warhammer 40K. So now he's going to be learning about the Tyrannids and the Orks, and we'll see how we go from there. You excited to keep going?
Awesome.
Alright, let's get right into the reaction.
Right.
Bugs.
Mom, they following me, Mom. They following me. These, the bugs.
The bugs.
The Tyrannids. Now, you want to talk something a lot more fun, a little more simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans?
Yeah.
Let's talk the Tyrannids. They're bugs. Do they look like Zerg? Hell yeah, they look like Zerg. You want to know why they look like Zerg? Because they were actually supposed to be what Zerg were. Apparently StarCraft was supposed to be a 40K game in the beginning, hence why they look so much like Eldar, Zerg, and the Imperium of Man. Like, kind of Space Marine-y, those Marines, huh? They look a little bit Space Marine-y to me. Maybe. I don't know. You really fucked up on that one, Games Workshop, didn't ya? Tyrannids are a giant infestation of unfathomable proportions. These are giant, extremely bio-advanced hive mind organisms that are basically all about absorbing as much biomass as they possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely potent and powerful and kill and eat anything in their path. They are probably the least evil faction in all of 40K because all they want to do is eat shit. They want to nom the entire galaxy. They hangry and we food. Also, this Tyrannid hive mind has a presence in the warp. In fact, Tyrannids in their own right have a massive presence in the warp. They have a thing called the Shadow in the warp specifically, where when they are coming in to invade a planet, they have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the psychers on that planet. And how do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to call for help from the Tyrannids, these are just easy pickings. And an entire giant Tyrannid hive fleet comes out of orbit and just will massacre, absorbing all that biomass and turning them and all of their other Tyrannids into even more advanced monsters. They come in so many varieties too, all based on what is
like
important.
A virus.
Tiny little ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormagons, Termagants, and Gene Stealers, all the way to the Hive Guard and the Exocrines and the Swarm Lord, to Hive Tyrants and their giant battle fleets, and even something as crazy as the Hierophant Bio-Titan. The Tyrannids come in all forms and sizes depending on what they require. They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you could plague them or blight them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and such. Tyrannids are nigh perfect organisms and are pretty spooky when it comes down to how they handle all of their genetic material. Keep feeding them, they'll keep evolving. They keep on creating new horrifying organisms to spread across the galaxy. And you know what the most terrifying part of the Tyrannids is?
What?
We might be surrounded. There have been around 6 or 7 Tyrannid hive fleets. Behemoth, Kronos, all these different kinds of hive fleets, and they've all arrived in the galaxy from different points. Different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had different Tyrannids come through. And that is horrifying, because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded on all sides by Tyrannids. The only reason you may not hear a whole lot about Tyrannids is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch of story off of one hive mind genocidal monsters. All these giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving. Well, I mean, as cool as there are, there's some cool characters, the Swarm Lord, Old One-Eye. You can't really have a whole bunch of major character-based stories around them. As awesome as they are, they're simple. They want to eat you. They want to eat you and absorb your biomass. They are simple bugs. If you want something a little more complex, talk Gene Stealer cults.
I can have all the pot I want, I can run faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls.
Gene stealer cults are a special brand of Tyrannid that can slowly infect themselves into different kinds of society. And by infecting them, they can rise up to where they all pray and believe in these regular humans, pray and believe into their Tyrannid hive mind gods. And these brood lords and I think they're called patriarchs all can turn an entire world all based into gene stealers, and these are called gene stealer cults. An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but servants to the Tyrannid masters just by infecting them and screwing with their genetic code a little bit.
Correct.
They also have this cool like Mad Max look, which is really neat. They are definitely one of the bigger threats to the Imperium besides Chaos. I keep saying biggest threat to the Imperium. They're up there though, because you, dingus, stepped on a bug in middle school. Asshole. There is a cancer eating at the Imperium.
Oh,
With
cancer,
each decade, it advances
like
deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale. And all we can do is to try to stop the swarms of bioengineer monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salvage our fears. We call it the Tyrannid race. But if it is aware of us, it must know us as nothing but prey. Tyrannids, they're cool.
Yeah.
But are they as cool as the Orks?
I don't know. You tell me. The Orks.
Super fast.
Orks. Orks. I fucking love Orks. So, yes, the green monsters, the green tide, the green skins. These Orks, they are in fact a race in 40K. The Orks are as exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering each other. Orks are so cool. Orks don't have philosophy. Orks don't have existential crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy because he the biggest orc. He big orc. Big orc knows best. You win through the power of imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? As an orc, you're enjoying life. You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which is just hilarious to me. Those are orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war because you want to wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs, and then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because orc dead. Orcs, they scrap together machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because they believe, they have the mental imagination that that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works. The power of imagination. They paint things red because it makes them think it goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also like ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Orks, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're pretty spooky. They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard. And it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyrannids. Maybe more.
Wow.
But they keep on murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue. Orcs are entirely comic relief. Their stuff is slapped together that makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine that
Isn't
it works.
that like the
Orcs
Mechanicus
care only
people?
about
Like,
who is the
you believe
biggest
in your
orc, and they
weapons?
will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a wa is just war in orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up. That's orcs. And on the tabletop,
I love it.
they are a total coin flip, and they're really fun. I have never met a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super well trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything. From the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc. It's a coin flip, which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way. It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're gonna have fun and you want to be stupid and you want to be silly, you're gonna play some damn orcs. But on the opposite side of the fun part of this, let's talk about the Necrons.
Okay, Al, how do you find the Tyrannids and the Orcs?
As they were getting into the Tyrannid, the explanation of it, I just immediately thought like a biological, like a universe, or like a large scale, like AIDS or cancer or something. And I kept saying like, oh, like a virus, and it goes, yeah, they're kind of like a virus, a swarm. And I was like, oh,
the cancer of
that's
the
pretty
universe.
cool, and that's terrifying on a planetary scale. And I found them quite interesting that they were so durable and intelligent in their own way, that they could make efficient and sturdy biological structures. Like they were pretty much like, you know,
biological
sturdy,
constructs and everything. Their ships are all their ships are living ships,
so
and they push themselves in space.
I like the switch between like the contrast between the Eldar and the humans and the Orcs and the Tyrannids, where Eldar and humans are more like deliberating, they're
intentional,
thinking, intentional. They have a more of a conscious mind to them, and a sort of like a concept of like good and bad, and what we want and what we don't want. Whereas the Orcs are just like kill. The Tyrannids are just like consume, and the Orcs are just like war. Let's have fun with it, you know. And I think it's, though the character design is less human or humanoid, I feel like I appreciate their, not philosophy, it's not a philosophy, but their directive, their objective, their way of being. I thought I wanted like to be like a super soldier, but then I would rather think like an orc, you know, just like murder and subservience, and you know, just kill and believe stuff and it'll happen.
Yeah, that's insane.
The only reason why the Orcs haven't taken over, I think the Orcs, if they got their shit together, could effectively just like, if it weren't for like Tyrannids.
Tyrannids would be like
to hold them at bay. Like if they were just like.
There's actually currently a war going on in the middle of the galaxy between Orcs and Tyrannids. And the thing is, whoever wins that war will possibly be very, very strong and powerful, and will most likely go on to conquer the rest of the galaxy. That's the story that's being thrown around in the the lore among the fandom.
And I love that. And I love that they're also. He mentioned that they're an old race as well.
Yeah.
You know, an old race. So they must be doing something right to have gotten their shit together and, you know, because again, everything tends back to war. Even with the Emperor of Man, you know, a realized being or a superior being, just mobilizes everyone, and then we're on conquest. We're doing war again. So you look at these violent people, the Orks, and like you look at the level of violence and realize, as simple as it may seem, they've had time, as old as they are as a race, they've had time to figure it all out and realize like it's just violence and it's just another day to, like, they don't have to do all that extra thinking. They lived long enough to realize that the consciousness, the Ork consciousness, or the, let's say, not a hive mind, but like the Ork consciousness has realized that it all tends to violence anyway. Let's just be dumb and violent and believe shit will work, right? And, you know, we'll get by, and they've been getting by, you know. It's crazy. I love it. Sorry.
No, all right. Okay, any final thoughts towards either the Orks or Tyrannids? Or?
I thought I wouldn't. I didn't think I would like the Tyrannids as much as I appreciate them. I was like, yeah, that makes, you know, in terms of the greater power balance within the universe, the physical universe, I feel like, you know, that doesn't upset, or, you know, it's like there's that potential thing that could take over, but then there's so many other things that are keeping it in balance, like the Orks, you know, they're strong and they're a violent race, and they're like, you know, for a lucky high rolling, you know, 5s and 6s, you know, you could take over the galaxy with
the
Orks. Yeah, or galaxies with Orks.
And speaking of which, remember Exterminatus? So people doing stuff to make sure to keep the Tyrannids at bay.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened, remember he showed a picture of a guy who used the Exterminators too much? He showed a little picture. So that guy used it to kill a whole bunch of human worlds, and like I think he used some kind of bomb that killed all the biological life. To basically, he starved the Tyrannids to keep them from coming to the places where there was a lot of human life.
Okay.
So they went to this further outpost of human worlds, and he just like killed, acid bomb or what it's called, killed all the biological life just to keep the Tyrannids from coming that way. And then the Tyrannids had to go elsewhere, and then they ended up finding the Orks at their main, like there was this part of the universe where all Orks pull up stuff, but they used to fight each other. And then the Tyrannids went there instead because they needed biomass, and then that's why they got stuck fighting with the Orks. So that's the humans too.
Stalemate, I see. Like, yeah, I can't imagine. Well, I can imagine maybe like the how old are the Tyrannids, by the way?
No idea.
No idea. So they're just like, okay.
They could be older. The
analogy of them being like cancer that just like popped up one time, and then they just like spread like, you know. Or they may have been something like, that's not.
Okay. I think we'll stop up here and then we'll get to the next one. Looking forward to the
definitely
the Necrons. The Necrons, and they're the Orks and the Eldar were created to fight someone.
Okay.
Necrons.
Created.
So we'll go from there. I'll leave you with that before the next episode.
This gets more and more interesting.
Okay.
I like how he's planned, like how he's introduced each of them as like a
build up. All right.